As I was walking confidently to the greengrocer, I saw a couple shopping, hidden behind a Christmas tree. It's unusual to see a couple here. Thinking that, I approached and realized the man was Patrick, who had just married my daughter Laura. However, the young woman clinging to his arm was not Laura. Patrick and the woman seemed to be chatting intimately.
Oh. Really? Is that true?
The woman's voice was sweet and playful, and Patrick was grinning.
It's true. The turnips here are reputed to be delicious.
Shall we buy one?
Let's do that. Do you remember what my mom likes?
Turnip stew.
The woman answered confidently. Why does this woman know Patrick's mother's favorite dish instead of Patrick himself? I felt uneasy and decided to capture their image with my smartphone camera. Click, a satisfying sound echoed. You're well informed, I said, and the two of them quickly turned towards me, screaming in surprise.
What? What?
Why are you here?
The woman looked at me in surprise, and Patrick's face turned pale. Patrick, so that's how it is. I'm disappointed.
No,
Both of them were taken aback, and before they could say anything, I turned on my heel and left. As I walked home alone, I wondered how I should tell Laura. My name is Mary Johnson. I'm a single mother after a divorce. I don't like to think about my ex-husband much, but certain times of the year bring back memories. I used to think my ex-husband was serious, very kind, and pure-hearted. At least, I believed that until our daughter Laura was born. When I was pregnant with Laura, he started coming home later and later. At the time, there was talk of a promotion, so I didn't worry about his late hours. Then, just as the months passed and I gave birth to our daughter, and we were about to start a new life as a family of 3, it happened. I remember it was raining that day, and both baby Laura and I were crying. It was the day I found out about my ex-husband's affair. The cause was a phone call from his mistress, telling me to divorce him. My mind went into a panic, and when he came home, I confronted him. He nodded without saying a word, which was his way of admitting to the affair. My ex-husband had become close with the other woman even before I got pregnant, and he was having meals with her while I was enduring childbirth. There was no way I could forgive him, even if I wanted to start over, so we divorced. Now, I live with my daughter Laura, and I've raised her on my own. Fortunately, Laura grew up healthy, without any major illnesses or injuries. She progressed smoothly through elementary, middle, and high school, and I thought she would go on to university. However, instead of looking at university brochures, Laura was browsing job magazines.
Mom, I'm going to work after I graduate from high school.
Why? Wouldn't it be better to go to university?
No, I want to support you. Don't worry about money. I don't want you to overwork yourself.
No matter how many times we talked, Laura's answer didn't change. She had good grades and could have gone to a decent university if she tried. Even her homeroom teacher tried to persuade her, but Laura insisted on getting a job. In the end, I gave in and decided to support her job search. Surprisingly, this turned out to be a good decision. Once Laura started working, She became lively and seemed to have suddenly grown up, showing a reliability that made it hard to believe she was a high school student just a short while ago. About 4 or 5 years after Laura started working, she became proficient at her job and was even entrusted with training new employees. Around this time, Laura's complaints also increased.
Listen, Mom. I can't believe this year's new hires are the same age as me.
She seemed shocked by the difference between herself and those who were students just last month. Maybe you wanted to go to university after all.
No, it's not that. There's one new hire who has a habit of slacking off. It's really frustrating. The company isn't a school.
Laura said indignantly as she finished her beer. Well, there are always people like that. Don't let it bother you too much.
I keep clashing with that person. It's exhausting.
With each complaint, another beer can was opened, and Laura's face gradually turned red. If she doesn't stop soon, it will affect her tomorrow. All right, let's go to bed. You have work tomorrow. Reluctantly, Laura cleaned up the table and started getting ready for bed. Her drinking and complaining have calmed down compared to before. Just seeing that makes me feel Laura's growth, but maybe that's just me being a doting parent. After some time had passed since those events, one day Laura brought a man home. She said they had met at work and had been dating since last year. The man's name was Patrick Smith, and he was the same age as my daughter. After about a year of workplace romance, he came to ask for her hand in marriage. I have no intention of opposing their marriage, but there is one thing I need to tell them. Laura doesn't have a father. I divorced when she was still a baby. So, I have a request for you.
A request?
He looked a bit puzzled and exchanged glances with Laura. The reason for the divorce was that I found out my ex-husband was having an affair. There were many times I thought that if he hadn't cheated, Laura wouldn't have had to feel lonely. The two of them looked at me with serious expressions. I looked back at them just as seriously. My request is that you promise never to make Laura sad or lonely, and never to cheat on her. For a moment, the living room fell silent. Then Patrick spoke up.
I had no idea such a thing had happened. Cheating while having a wife and child is absolutely unacceptable. It's unforgivable.
Patrick was indignant, clenching his fists.
More than anything, making Laura sad is something that should never happen. I swear, I will never cheat on her.
Patrick looked me straight in the eye and said it clearly. There was no lie or deceit in his eyes, and I felt he was someone I could trust. Patrick, please take care of Laura.
Yes. I will definitely make Laura happy.
Patrick said, tightening his gentle expression and blushing. After that, I met Patrick's parents, the Smiths. I was somewhat relieved to find that his mother, Cindy, shared my views on fidelity and had strong ethical values. We might have a good relationship with these in-laws. I feel reassured. I thought to myself as I enjoyed a drink alone. Even after getting married, Laura continued to work.
In this day and age, women have to work too, or it's tough.
She said, still as lively as ever. Even though she no longer lived with me, she kept in touch frequently. Just recently, she sent me a message saying she would be on a business trip for about a month. It's been a while since I started hearing the term career woman, but I never imagined my own daughter would become one. So honestly, I'm surprised. In the past, they used to say women should stay home and take care of the family, but times have changed. However, when Laura returned from her month-long business trip, she was sensitive to the change in Patrick's behavior. Up until then, Laura and Patrick had divided the household chores between them. Patrick took out the trash on certain days, Laura cleaned the bathroom, and they had assigned tasks down to the smallest details. However, when Laura returned from her business trip, the trash hadn't been taken out, and the bathroom, kitchen, and living room were all messy.
Hey, I asked you to take care of the house while I was on my trip.
Patrick sighed without even looking up from his smartphone.
I'm tired from work every day. I want to rest on weekends too. I can't be bothered with housework.
You used to do it before. Why not now?
You're annoying. I can't relax when you're around. I'm going to bed.
Laura was bewildered by Patrick's unusually irritated tone. This was the first time something like this had happened. Even when she asked what was wrong, he wouldn't answer.
You're so arrogant. Even though you only graduated high school, you earn as much as I do and use business trips as an excuse to slack off on housework.
That's not fair. I can't help the business trips. You go on business trips all the time too, don't you?
I don't want to hear that from someone who dumps all the housework on me for a month.
Dumping it? What are you talking about? Hey, are you listening?
These kinds of marital arguments increased, and the relationship between Laura and Patrick gradually cooled. She also found it difficult to get along with her mother-in-law, Cindy, and Laura was struggling with what to do. I never expected Laura to come to me for advice on such matters. Even when I asked if there was any friction in the relationship between Laura and her mother-in-law, she couldn't think of anything. This left me at a loss. Still, I couldn't understand what had caused the once kind Patrick to become so cold, just from hearing Laura's side of the story. Around that time, I had the opportunity to meet Patrick and Laura at a family gathering. I took the chance to speak to Patrick privately, away from Laura. Patrick, it's been a while.
Oh. Yes, it has.
His unusually distant attitude made me feel uneasy. I hear Laura is in your care. How about you both come over for dinner sometime?
I have work. Besides, I don't like that kind of thing.
Oh, is that so? Realizing he was trying to brush me off coldly, I thought something must be up. How's work going? Is everything okay?
Enough already. Laura keeps asking me questions like you do. Is that your personality?
What? No, I didn't mean.
Work is fine. Is that all? Honestly, it's your poor upbringing that made Laura so arrogant, bossing me around.
He spat out the words and quickly walked away. Seeing his changed attitude and hearing him blame my upbringing, it was clear something had happened to him. The situation between the two of them seemed more serious than I had thought. But how could I resolve this? It's not me who can improve their relationship, it's up to them. Not knowing what they wanted, all I could do was watch over them. As I spent my days thinking about this, Laura started contacting me more frequently. Even when she wanted to talk things over with Patrick, he wouldn't engage. Even on the rare days they both had off, Patrick would go out without saying anything. He wouldn't eat the meals she prepared, and they stopped seeing each other altogether. It was practically a state of living separately under the same roof. One winter day, when you could see your breath in the air, I went to the shopping street in front of the station. With the year-end approaching, the shopping street was bustling, decorated with Christmas trees and playing Jingle Bells music. While many families were enjoying themselves, I headed alone to my usual greengrocer. The turnips there were reputed to be very sweet and delicious. There was a small Christmas tree at the entrance facing the street. As I walked confidently towards the greengrocer, I saw a couple shopping, hidden behind the Christmas tree. It's unusual to see a couple here. Thinking that, I approached and realized the man was Patrick. However, the young woman clinging to his arm was not Laura. Patrick and the woman seemed to be chatting intimately. I quietly sneaked closer until I could hear their conversation.
Oh. Really? Is that true?
The woman's voice was sweet and playful, and Patrick was grinning.
It's true. The turnips here are reputed to be delicious.
Shall we buy one?
Let's do that. Do you remember what my mom likes?
Turnip stew.
The woman answered confidently. I felt uneasy, wondering why this woman knew Patrick's mother's favorite dish instead of Patrick himself. Realizing what was going on, I decided to capture their image with my smartphone camera. Click, a satisfying sound echoed. You're well informed, I said, and the two of them quickly turned towards me, screaming in surprise.
What? What?
Why are you here?
Patrick and the woman, flustered, looked at me in shock. Patrick's face turned pale, which was slightly comical. Patrick, so that's how it is. I'm disappointed.
No,
Both of them were taken aback, and before they could say anything, I turned on my heel and left. As I walked home alone, I wondered how I should tell Laura. I also needed to inform his mother. My pace quickened naturally, and before I knew it, I was in front of my house. By then, I had calmed down a bit and started to think absent-mindedly about how I had forgotten to buy turnips at the greengrocer. As soon as I entered the house, I contacted Laura. Unfortunately, I reached her voicemail, so I left a message and hung up. Next, I called Patrick's mother. This time, the call connected quickly, and I explained the situation in detail.
What?
She screamed.
I'll come over right away.
What? But it's a long trip on Amtrak. We could arrange a meeting for another day.
Mary, I must speak to my son firmly.
I could hear her heavy breathing over the phone, and I couldn't say anything more. The call ended abruptly, and then Laura called me back. Her voice was panicked, so I tried to speak calmly. Yes, that's right. Patrick. What? What did the woman look like? Well, I took a photo, so I'll send it to you later. Just stay strong. Laura sounded distressed. After hanging up, I sent her the photo via message. Laura saw the photo and called me immediately.
Mom, is this really the person?
Yes, it is. What's wrong?
This woman works at my office.
What? Indeed, I remembered that she was talking about the company in the same manner she would when addressing Patrick and her seniors.
Her name is Sophia Wilson. She's the one I often complained about clashing with.
Oh, so she's your junior colleague?
Yes. I can't believe it.
It was past 3 o'clock. I decided to head to Laura's house. On the way, I received a call from Patrick's mother, who had indeed rushed over on Amtrak. We met at the nearest station and went to Laura's house, where she was already waiting for us. The three of us waited anxiously for Patrick to return. A few hours later, we heard the front door open, and he came home. Patrick closed the door silently and quietly entered the living room. His face was sullen, but when he saw us, he turned pale and stepped back in shock.
Mom, and you too, Mary, why?
You know why. There's no use pretending.
Patrick turned his back on us and tried to escape. However, the three of us grabbed the hem of Patrick's trench coat and pulled him back. Losing his balance, Patrick fell on his backside and grimaced. We all looked down at him.
You can't just run away. Explain everything.
Laura, what are you up to? You even called my mom? Don't you know how hard it is to travel by Amtrak?
The ones having a hard time are Laura and Mary. Do you understand what you've done?
Reprimanded by his own mother, Patrick flinched. Do you remember when I saw you at the shopping street today? Who was that woman with you?
She's a junior colleague from work.
For a junior colleague, you seemed awfully close. You were even linking arms and having fun.
No, that was...
Looking embarrassed, Patrick lowered his head. Laura spoke up.
It was Sophia, right? That woman who's famous for having workplace romances and not doing any work.
Even you know about her? It's your fault. You're more competent than me, recognized by our boss, and even go on business trips. What's the deal?
Were you jealous of Laura?
Yes, that's right. Laura, a high school graduate, is less educated than me but still gets promoted. I resented that.
What? You thought that?
Laura seemed shocked to hear this for the first time. Ignoring Laura, Patrick confessed.
Sophia is much smarter and more charming than Laura. She's my solace.
I was almost impressed by how he could praise another woman so much in front of his own wife. Patrick's mother was turning red with anger.
When I told her our marriage was cooling off, she was kind to me. She's a really good person.
Laura and I could only look at him with cold eyes as he desperately tried to explain himself. The only one who took action was Patrick's mother, who grabbed him by the chest and shouted.
How could you say such a thing?
It was likely that as they interacted as senior and junior colleagues at work, Patrick had confided in Sophia about his marital issues. Sophia took advantage of this, seducing Patrick and making him fall for her. Patrick was now completely convinced he wanted to remarry her.
I'm going to marry Sophia. I promised her.
Get a grip.
I've found true love. She's the only one for me.
I was exasperated, thinking how pathetic his words sounded. Even my ex-husband never said anything like that. They say love is blind, and Patrick was clearly blinded by it.
That's why I told her what Mom likes and didn't tell Laura, to make their relationship worse.
Wait, what do you mean by that?
Laura confronted Patrick, shouting,
You mean you deliberately made my relationship with your mom awkward?
I thought it was strange that Laura and I couldn't seem to connect. It was your doing, wasn't it?
You told me to be considerate and not contact your mom?
You said Laura was busy with work and asked me to refrain from contacting her. Was that all a lie?
Yes, that's right. I wanted Mom to like Sophia. So,
Shut up.
She slapped Patrick across the face.
I hold Laura in high regard. She's much better than a woman who would go after someone else's husband.
Cindy.
I will never approve of your marriage to that woman, Sophia, or whatever her name is.
Patrick seemed shocked by his mother's words. Laura took a step back from the stunned Patrick.
If you love her that much, fine. Let's get a divorce.
I didn't miss the slight look of relief on Patrick's face when Laura mentioned divorce.
Laura, thank you.
But I'll be demanding alimony from both you and Sophia.
What?
Enjoy your life together.
Laura spat out the words and slapped Patrick. She then demanded he sign the prepared divorce papers, and Patrick, still in shock, signed them. It didn't take long for Patrick to pack his things and leave. He eagerly packed his bags and went to Sophia. However, it was then that Patrick realized for the first time that she was engaged to someone else. Laura overheard their conversation in the office break room.
Sophia, you must be joking, right? What about our marriage?
Did you seriously believe that? How pathetic. I never had any intention of marrying you.
What?
I just wanted to mess with Laura. It was fun to disrupt her family.
She laughed gleefully. As Sophia tried to leave the bewildered Patrick, Laura quickly caught her.
I heard everything. I'll be demanding alimony from you too.
Laura. No, it was just a joke. Why are you taking it seriously? A joke? This?
Laura showed her the messages on Patrick's phone as evidence. The messages were filled with heart emojis. At that moment, Sophia turned pale and stood speechless. Laura consulted with a lawyer and made Patrick and Sophia pay alimony at the standard rate. As December arrived, marking the end of the year, both Laura and I were trying to wrap up various things. Laura moved out of the house she shared with Patrick and returned to live with me. Over drinks, she gradually started talking about Patrick and Sophia. According to Laura, Patrick managed to pay the alimony, but it left him in debt. Additionally, his mother disowned him because of the incident. Patrick respected his mother greatly, so this was a huge shock for him. He went to work every day looking pale. Since he worked at the same company as Laura, his infidelity quickly spread throughout the office. Female colleagues and supervisors gave him cold looks, making it uncomfortable for him to stay. He planned to resign by the end of the year. What happened to Sophia? I asked, offering Laura some cheese as she sipped her drink. Sophia's situation was also a hot topic at the office. Her fiancé was a salesman from a client company, and the news of her affair reached him through mutual acquaintances. Naturally, he was furious and broke off the engagement, demanding alimony. Despite her attempts to reconcile, he refused. Sophia ended up with a large debt to pay the alimony. Feeling uncomfortable at work, she used up her paid leave and had already resigned.
This is just a rumor, but I heard she started working at night. Well, it suits her, doesn't it?
She said this half-heartedly, her eyes somewhat glazed. Maybe she had drunk too much today. A few days later, Laura started receiving daily messages from Patrick and Sophia.
Laura, I've realized that you're the only one for me. Can we start over?
You ruined my life. Take responsibility.
These messages ranged from Patrick begging for reconciliation to long, resentful messages from Sophia.
Who was it that said cheating was unforgivable?
Laura sighed in exasperation and ignored the messages. She blocked both of their contacts and pretended not to know them if she saw them in public. Now single again, Laura was thriving as a career woman, and she looked radiant. Surprisingly, Patrick's mother, Laura's mother-in-law, and Laura had hit it off and still kept in touch occasionally. The catalyst for their bond was alcohol. Both enjoyed drinking and would chat enthusiastically about snacks and local sake. It's good that you get along, but don't drink too much.
Don't worry.
She hiccuped, clearly drunk. It seemed that Laura and her mother-in-law would continue to have a good relationship next year as well. As her real mother, I felt a bit lonely, but I was also very happy to have Laura living with me a little longer.
Oh, by the way, I'm going to the shopping street tomorrow. Should I buy some turnips?
Oh, I forgot to buy them. Yes, please. Thinking about making turnip stew or soup, I started planning the weekend menu.
How did you like this story? Please subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video.